A recent report by Elliotte Friedman has revealed and leaked the Toronto Maple Leafs trade offer to the Calgary Flames for Chris Tanev. And Chris Tanev is a name that has been brought up multiple times and a name that the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking to acquire. So this offer is very, very interesting. So we'll break that down in this episode of Leafs Digest, as well as Auston Matthews. He continues to make history and he continues to have one of the best seasons we have ever seen. So stay tuned for all that in this episode and much more. Of course, before we do, quick reminder, hit the subscribe button. We're now on the road to 7,500 subscribers. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. And make sure to hit that button. 78.3% of you who are watching are not subscribed. So if you aren't already, scroll down and hit that subscribe button. Now, Darius, a lot to discuss. You've kind of been covering a couple of post-game videos. The Leafs are playing great, 8-2 in their last 10, really playing well. And that kind of lends to the fact that a trade could be coming, and maybe a bigger trade than we may thought. And let's just get into it. The Leafs trade offer has been revealed. We have yet, up until yesterday when Elliotte Friedman was on his 32 Thoughts podcast and revealed this, we kind of didn't have an idea of what the Leafs' current offer was, where they stand regarding these players. And Elliotte Friedman gave us some insight like he always does, and he kind of gave us an Elliotte Friedman bomb here yesterday. So let's get into it. And it's a very interesting offer, and one that we kind of, I don't know if you expected or not, but tidbits from Elliotte Friedman 32 Thoughts podcast. It says the Leafs are in on Tanev, but they're offering, quote, multiple picks, no firsts. Calgary is waiting to see if anyone offers a first. Fingers crossed they don't. This person's a Leafs fan. And Leafs will know about the outcome of the Morgan Rielly appeal today. He ended up getting 5 games. Not too much to discuss there, at least in this video, maybe in a future video. But Rielly got 5 games. Should be back Thursday. But he had to say that they're offering multiple picks. Now, obviously, if you look at the picks that they have the first round pick in 2024, but they do not have a second rounder until 2027. And Freeman reports the Leafs have offered multiple lower round draft picks. So, Darius, a lot to unpack here. Chris Tanev, what are your thoughts on? Obviously, we've kind of discussed him for literally months now, but no first is being offered, at least at this point, from Brad Treliving.
Well, I think the narrative the whole time has been, if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you should look to acquire Chris Tanev. But if the asking price is a first round pick, probably don't do that, right? Because he is a UFA at the end of the day. He is getting older. We've talked about he's not really injury prone, but he has missed some time due to injuries. So, how much longer is his body going to hold up at the current rate? There's just a lot of question marks if you're going to let go of a first round pick. Now, I think there have been some rumors on Twitter that Calgary might be leaking stuff out to see if they can get as much as possible for their players. They've said that Ottawa's interested. They said that Vancouver is interested. It doesn't make sense for Ottawa to acquire him, especially at the trade deadline this year. They're like second last in the conference. But yeah, in terms of who's interested in him, I think it's the Leafs and Vancouver. So I think Calgary is trying to make their player look better and that they're in a bidding war with other teams. And I just don't think that's the case. So when it comes down to it, I think they're probably going to hold out till right around the trade deadline. I think the Leafs are, actively trying to acquire Chris Tanev, obviously with that trade offer leaked. But it's going to be interesting to watch until the trade deadline. I don't think he's going to move because I think Calgary wants a first round pick or as much as possible for him, and I just don't think there is the bidding war that they think they have happening.
Yeah, I mean, we'll end up seeing if that's the biggest question is if a first round pick is going to be offered by any team, whether it's the Canucks, whether it's obviously the Maple Leafs. And looking at his stats here now, I mean, he's a very good defenseman. He has 12 points so far. Again, he's not really a stat sheet guy. He's one of the best defensemen in the league. And I saw some fans, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this, and if you're watching as well. I mean, because they've been playing so well, we've seen how good they are playing. Maybe Brad Treliving could justify going all in this year. And offering that first-round pick for a guy like Chris Tanev to bolster them if they think that the group is going to continue this high level of play that they've been playing with, and then you add a guy like Chris Tanev. Do you think that maybe it would be worth a first-round pick given what you've seen? Obviously not it's only a smallish sample size, the past 10 games, but they've been playing well for a while now, and obviously they're 4-0 in the Morgan Rielly absence, which is a bit interesting. And again, we mentioned it before the suspension that they played great without him. Probably a coincidence. We're not going to get too far into that. But, yeah. I mean, they don't have a second-round pick, which hurts their offer a lot. You'd suspect a team like Calgary, Vancouver, any team who has second-round picks could up the Leafs' offer if no first-rounder is involved, just by having a second-round pick in there. Do you think that the Leafs maybe bite the bullet and give up their first just because of how well they've been playing lately and how good their blue line could end up being if they add a guy like Tanev in? And it's been rumored that he might even be willing to extend his contract in Toronto.
Well, I've been pretty vocal about how the Leafs, if they are to make a trade this year, it has to be somebody that, like a needle mover, right? It has to be somebody worth getting, not a third pairing defenseman or these guys around the edges, right? It just wouldn't make sense because they're in a spot where, like we've been talking about, they don't have second round picks anymore to throw around. They don't have draft picks in general to throw around. So I don't think they're going to throw their first round pick at Chris Tanev. I think Chris Tanev can still become a Toronto Maple Leaf by other means. And I do think it will still happen because, obviously Treliving loves this player. And I think if you're the Leafs, you want to acquire a player like this. I just don't think you want to give up your first round pick because this is a guy who can slot in like right beside Morgan Rielly on the first pairing. I think it's another Luke Schenn situation. And like you said too with the stats, a lot of people look at like hockey DB and stuff like that. Don't look at that for a player like Chris Tanev. I like to look at like JFresh charts and other defensive charts because if you look at those, you can see he's like in the 100th percentile for defense. Like he's pretty good. This is a good player. This is a player you should look to add onto your team. I think he is in a way, for what the Leafs are looking for, a needle mover. He's a right shot defenseman. He's a very good defenseman. He's a defensive defenseman. That's everything that they need, right? Everything we've been talking about. So I just don't think first round pick is warranted in this situation. And like I said, I'm starting to think that there is no bidding war. I think Calgary's just maybe throwing things out there to keep raising the price. But like we've learned, the Leafs have thrown out their offer, and I just don't know if there's a bidding war. I think it will go closer to the trade deadline, but that'll be it.
Yeah, and maybe Toronto gets him for a third or fourth, whatever it ends up being, without their first, which would obviously be ideal. Or maybe he's packaging a bigger trade for maybe with a guy like Noah Hanifin, which we'll probably discuss in a video tomorrow because rumors are starting to escalate there as well. But let us know what your thoughts are on this big Elliotte Friedman bomb. He always drops them on his podcast, but today was definitely a big one as the animation plays there. But let's move on now to Auston Matthews. Might have to get an animation for him soon, another animation, and just keep going for Auston Matthews because I don't even know what to say at this point. Obviously, he had another great game, and you're looking at his history, and this has already been covered a little bit, but I just wanted to bring up the fact of how good Auston Matthews has been. Obviously scores back-to-back hat tricks, second time this season, first player in NHL history with back-to-back hat tricks since Gretzky in 83-84. Matthews, I think one of the reasons, and this kind of translates and lends into the trade talks, is that Brad Treliving might want to go more all-in at this trade deadline. Obviously, doesn't necessarily mean a first for Tanev, is because of how good he's having a historic season. You couldn't have asked for a better season from Auston Matthews. I mean, 49 goals, 53 games. I feel like there might be a bit of pressure here from ownership to get some sort of deal done to bolster this team, given how good of a season he's having. You cannot waste a season like this.
No, not at all. I mean, like you said, it's a historic season. And earlier in the year, the way they were playing, obviously he was still playing fantastic. He was scoring at the same clip, right? But the team overall, you could see, wasn't gelling at the time. I think something like this Morgan Rielly incident, it looks like they've kind of come together in a physical sense, right? They're playing a lot harder, and they're playing a more physical type of hockey, and they're winning hockey games without Morgan Rielly. So once you add him back, it's just going to get better, right? So now I think there is a little bit of pressure. Like, okay, it looks like they might be gelling. Maybe we can go out and acquire a few guys. And I think that's what we've all wanted to see. If it was still trending the way that it was maybe a couple months ago, then you wouldn't pull the trigger. I was saying that you probably shouldn't if they continue to play this way because it would be a waste. It would be a waste. But if it looks like they're starting to come together, then maybe you pull the trigger. And like you said, Auston Matthews on fire. Like last year, it was a down year.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying 40 goals still. Like that's crazy, right? And this year he's on pace for 75 after last night, I think, which is crazy. So historic season. He's putting up crazy numbers. He might win the MVP again. So yeah, I would say the way they're playing and the way that he's playing right now, yeah, you probably want to go for it. There probably is pressure. Like you only have this guy for so many years. He's already 26 years old. So how many more years in his prime does he have, right? You want to go for it.
Yeah, and maybe they do, and maybe they don't. Who really knows? Hopefully they make a big move. And again, I'm not sure if Chris Tanev for a first-round pick is necessarily that all-in move they're going to want to do, especially given the lack of draft capital they have regarding second-round picks. But I'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on all this. Would you trade a first for Chris Tanev? Leave it in the comments. And are you impressed with Matthews? Obviously, the answer is probably going to be yes, but who knows? And if you want to check out our video from yesterday, click on your screen now. We'll see you tomorrow.